F1 needs Max Verstappen, and here's why. So the race starts and he gets a good tow heading down into turn 1. He tries to move around the outside but runs out of road and has to take to the runoff. He gains an advantage overtaking off track, so understandably he's requested to give the position back.
I think our recommendation is you let this go, we can talk about it later.
Of course, Max isn't happy about it and he wants to let the FI know that as well.
Okay, so you can just drive people off the track then. Then you can tell the FIA that's how we're going to race from now onwards. Just driving people off the road.
I mean, do I really need to say anything here?
That's you! That's not them. That's not me.
After giving the position back, he begins relentlessly hunting down Lando again, and you can literally feel his rage from the body language of that car. He really said, and at that moment it became personal with me. Obviously, he can't run that close forever, so he decides to back off and go into management mode like everyone else. But he's not happy with his car.
I can't brake, I can't enter corners. Front end rear is just really bad. I'm -5 brake bias and the thing just doesn't turn. It's unbelievable.
Then Mercedes make the call to box Hamilton to undercut the Dutchman, and with the undercut being so powerful in Hungary, he's already projected to be ahead. So they leave Max out, hoping that he can use the tyre offset to get back past. But at this point, he's already heated. Because this happened not once, but twice. And on the second stint, where GP asked Max to ease in the medium tyres, he completely lost it.
Well, that's some gentle introduction.
No mate, don't give me that now. You guys give me this strategy, okay? I'm trying to rescue what's left.
And then the thing that tipped him over the edge entirely was Hamilton's genius defending.
Did you leave the car set?
Again, do I really need to say anything?
That's you! That's not them. That's not me.
Now obviously Max was very outspoken, and he always has been. The way in which he responds to things is very blunt and direct.
I don't really have a lot to comment on that, except that he was being a pussy.
Okay.
Some people may view it as rude, others might not. Did he have a reason to be frustrated? Yeah, of course. Max is a racer and he wants to win, so naturally he's going to be upset when things don't pan out the way he wants. And I'd be lying if I said that other drivers don't vent their frustration as well. When they're in the car and in the heat of battle, emotions are running very high. But as the old adage goes, that's life. Not everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows 100% of the time. This was a very, very rare instance where Red Bull weren't as proactive with their strategy as they normally are. Regardless, they still have by far and away the best strategists in the paddock. I'm telling you, those people that said Max wouldn't survive a second driving for Ferrari in 2022 was spot on. Over the years, having things running so smoothly in every single department, Max has probably become a bit too used to that perfection and maybe slightly taken it for granted. If I was to sit here and list out every single moment where Max has benefited from amazing strategic decisions, we'd be here for hours. The point is, you don't win races on your own. There's been a lot of talk about Verstappen carrying the team on his back, and he's outdriving the limits of the Red Bull. Maybe these are just figures of speech and I'm overdeeping it. But just to clarify, it is physically impossible to outperform a car. Like, there's the limit and you get as close to that limit as possible, but there's no superseding that. Nobody will ever know the absolute peak performance a car can achieve unless you have a driver that can extract that performance out of it. That's what great drivers do better than anyone else, the likes of Lewis, Max, Fernando. But it is possible to underperform in a car, which is what Sergio Perez is doing. I see a lot of people saying that, oh, Perez's performance is how good the Red Bull actually is, but when you put Verstappen in it, he automatically makes it a second faster. No, that's not how it works. I talked about this extensively in my last video, where I talked about the natural characteristics of the Red Bull and the difference in driving style between Max and Checo. As most of you know, it suits Verstappen's wants and needs more so than Checo's preferences, which is why we see such a massive gap between them. Other teams have caught up, but that doesn't mean that Red Bull are all of a sudden the fourth fastest car simply because Checo can't get out of Q1. It just means that you have to work that little bit harder because the competition is much stiffer. And let's give credit where credit is due. Verstappen has been doing this. You think back to Canada, or Imola, or the sprint race in Austria, moments where there were such fine margins, but it was him who made the difference. But now, it seems that the McLaren is a bit out of reach, and no amount of hustling was going to get Verstappen to finish ahead of them. Another reason for his frustration stemmed from the fact that Red Bull brought upgrades this weekend and were hoping to make a bigger step than they actually did. But again, c'est la vie. Stuff like that happens. Max isn't the first driver to experience this. Take Ferrari as an example again. You think about the number of times they've had failed upgrades during the middle of a season, especially in a championship battle. It's really frustrating, but nothing new. You can tell that Max is feeling the pressure, because for the rest of the season, it's probably going to be McLaren that will be the team to beat. And there's still quite a bit of time left for a championship challenge to still be put up. Now at the start of this video, I said F1 needs Max Verstappen, and here's why, but I never explained the why part. The reason why I said this is because I believe the sport needs someone like him. Somebody who goes against the grain and ruffles feathers. Someone who isn't afraid to unapologetically say what they think and push the limits of racing. He reminds me of one Pablo Montoya in the sense that he just states his opinions, and if people don't like it, then tough. He's a polarising figure that divides opinion more than anyone else on the grid. Of course, there's the flip side to this, which is the argument that he has an attitude problem. He's disrespectful to his engineers and throws his toys out the pram when things don't go his way. Another criticism people will have is his hypocrisy, particularly when it comes to his wheel-to-wheel racing. He'll do one thing that's on or even over the limit, but the millisecond another driver does the same thing back to him, he complains. Then he has this fascinating way of dodging accountability like Muhammad Ali dodging punches. But above all else, the great thing about Verstappen is that he creates discussion. Only time will tell how things pan out between him and Red Bull. Now, we obviously don't know what's going on internally, and how Verstappen's lashing out was received by the other team members. We only got that short snippet from the race where GP said Max was being childish. Other than that, there's nothing else to go off of. But what I will say is this: be careful about burning bridges, because you might need them again later. It's easy to get along when things are going well, but when things start to become a little bit more unstable, that's when you see a person's true character. In these last few seasons where Max has been dominating, I think the media did him a disservice in painting this picture that, he's matured, he's this cool, calm, collected character, and that he never gets into any unnecessary tussles. The fact of the matter is, nobody other than Perez had a car capable of challenging him up until now. It's as simple as that. It's a lot easier to make less mistakes driving out in front than it is when you actually have to fight other drivers in similarly matched cars. Lewis's racing IQ in defense was impeccable, and it caused Verstappen to get increasingly more frustrated, to the point where he just had to say screw it and send a dive bomb up the inside. This is the same thing he wasn't happy with Lando for in Austria, which was justified but hypocritical, since he uses the same moves against other drivers, because in this instance he was forced to. Lewis was like a brick wall. They make contact and Verstappen comes off worse, and then somehow he blames Lewis for moving in the braking zone.
No, but this is
100%.
Zero accountability.
100%.
This second half of the 2024 season is going to be fascinating to watch. Max now has an outside threat from multiple different teams, a position we haven't really seen him in for a very long time. What I'm most intrigued to know is how he elevates his team, who aren't going through the smoothest ride at the moment. Part of being the lead driver is boosting the morale of team members through both thick and thin. Verstappen has been very critical of the engineers as late, stating that some people need to wake up. And even though he might be right, nobody really wants to be talked to that way, in a condescending manner. But then again, if you ask somebody else, his way of communication might not be as condescending as you might think. This upcoming race in Belgium, and the subsequent ones after the summer break, will be pivotal, not just for this season, but 2025 as well. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about the Verstappen Red Bull situation in the comment section below. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.